From 0 to 7, UCLA has 5 commits, 2 expected, and the Bruins revolution with Bob Chesney has begun.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. And boy, oh boy, is it important to be an everydayer nowadays in the midst of this transfer portal season. We're going to end with, can the men's basketball team figure it out? In the middle, we'll get things cooking with UCLA destroying USC as expected with Corey Close and company. But let's start with this. UCLA, a day after getting their first official commits in the transfer portal, the Bruins are now up to close to 7 and counting, depending on when you watch this podcast, right? You got 5 official commits I've seen on social media and various reports, and 2 expected with crystal balls that are public. So here we go. UCLA is doing something that not even the transfer portal master Chip Kelly could do, which is winning early and often in the portal. Now, Chip Kelly did his best to do portal craziness, right? But Bob Chesney now, as the head man, needs a culture change, needs to get guys who can be winners, who want to be at UCLA, who have been successful either under the radar talents or in some cases winning superior talent battles. Let's start with this. UCLA, I think, has an absolute winner with the expected commitment of Dorian Thomas. He has a crystal ball, according to 24/7 Sports and CBS, that he's going to come to UCLA. I talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. Thomas coming from New Mexico, one of the top tight ends in the portal. Now, there's a lot of need for UCLA in the O-line and D-line. The tight end is a position that UCLA needs to have a room full of depth and talent. Well, Thomas will represent the talent on the receiving end, about 47 targets in terms of the top 3 tight ends in the country at not dropping passes. He had, 50 plus catches this year, a couple of touchdowns. Not a single drop on any of those targets. So Thomas is a legitimate threat to catch the ball and make plays. Didn't exactly blow up versus UCLA in the New Mexico UCLA game as a Lobo, but man, he's part of a winning team with the Lobos, looking to do so with UCLA. Thomas was expected to go to Florida. So UCLA is winning a recruiting battle for a top-tier tight end against a team that's also got a coach in the CFP, or was, like Tulane. And then all of a sudden, you had Florida. They have their own hold SEC. No, UCLA being the Big Ten, they have their own ability to bring guys over. So Dorian Thomas is a crystal ball, and he's not even visiting Florida anymore. So that's leaning closer and closer to him committing. Then you got another potential in Josh Pfeiffer, a tight end for UCLA, another JMU guy that is expected to transfer according to Chris Hummer of 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, a tight end. Now, he doesn't have big offensive numbers like Thomas does, but you bring in guys, so you build some depth of position. You can have a blocking tight end. You've got somebody who's already got the track record with Bob Chesney, and if he's handpicking that guy to come over, I trust Chesney's judgment. So the Bruins are already filling a need at the tight end position. Those are the 2 guys who are simply crystal balled. The Bruins rebuilding the secondary. The huge recommitments of Roderick Pleasance, and then you bring in Cole Martin returning to UCLA, his once intention to transfer. These are the guys who are expecting to join them now. You've got Tashawn James from Iowa State. DB, could be a starting safety, who announced, I saw Chris Hummer tweet it, and then Tashawn James himself on his own personal account retweeted it. That's his own personal conviction to say, hey, I'm going to UCLA. And it's interesting, in a time where Matt Campbell will get a lot of guys to go from Iowa State to Penn State, a guy who could be starting caliber. James comes to UCLA, adds some depth with multiple years of eligibility. That's somebody the Bruins can rely on for not just 1 year, but potentially 2 years. Adding on to UCLA secondary overhaul, Dante Lovett, a guy who's got a pick in his career at Virginia Tech, could have stayed, could have thought, hey, I could go with Penn State's former coach and James Franklin, stay there. He entered his name in the portal, and the Bruins got a solid DB to come over. So those are 2 early returns in the secondary for UCLA, one Virginia Tech, the other one in Tashawn James from Iowa State. And you're like, oh, I'm really liking where the Bruins are building all across the country. Now in terms of UCLA's offensive line, One, you have J.D. Rayner, James Madison, offensive tackle. That means from Bob Chesney's perspective, handpicked, and through the early visits of the weekend, he was the one that wasn't looking elsewhere, and he's coming to UCLA. An O-line that retains the offensive coordinator, and Dean Kennedy has a dual threat QB with Nico, just like they had with Alonzo Barnett III. Maybe there'll be a James Madison running back. We'll see. I can't confirm that or deny. But the Bruins will be just fine with whatever they put in the backfield. It's rebuilding what's up front. Rayner is one of the first guys from James Madison to commit officially to go to UCLA. On that same front, you have Derek Osman, a preseason first-team All-Ivy Leaguer. Postseason, he was an honorable mention on the Ivy League, has spent the majority of his career at Harvard as an offensive lineman. He's a starter coming to the Bruins, and you're starting to see, with another offer I saw that UCLA threw out to a Dartmouth defensive lineman, with the Northeast connections for Bob Chesney, he's going to go get the guys that are bigger, older, veteran linemen and target the guys who are going to have the grades to come over from the Ivy League who want to move to the West Coast. Guys who are like, oh, I went to Harvard, went to those Ivy Leagues. They have the grades to easily transition to UCLA. They have the understanding of the game. And if they want to play that extra year on the transfer portal, it means they're committing to the game. So getting a guy like Osman or other Ivy Leaguers, maybe a Nico Brown as the receiver, one of the top tier receivers in the Ivy League, best FCS transfers, and bring them over to the West Coast. That's what Chesney's trying to build. Books and ball wasn't exactly a bad mantra, but you need to go get the right guys who are committing to it. And Osman is the guy the Bruins are bringing over, one of those early commits. And the first one, Ryan McCullough, according to Bruin Report, the first UCLA commit from Cal, an edge rusher, who continues to build with a couple of Cal staffers that moved down to UCLA and the defensive side of the ball with McCullough. His numbers coming to UCLA, pretty solid numbers when he's healthy and available to play. This was his junior season for Ryan McCullough. His numbers in his career are as follows defensively. He has 19 solo tackles, 38 total tackles. He has 7.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks in his career, few passes defended, and a fumble recovery in his career. In his most dominant, most healthy season, or one of his more healthy seasons in 24, when Fernando Mendoza was on a Cal team, that same Cal team in 2024, McCullough, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks in 10 games. This most recent season had the battle with injury, only 4 games. I would assume that gets him a medical red shirt with only the 4 games played. So he could have 2 years of eligibility, and if he stays healthy and continues to grow, you have Vic Suoto, who comes in to coach UCLA's linebackers, I believe, from Cal. Man, an edge rusher, outside linebacker come in. Ryan McCullough could be primed for a breakout candidate for UCLA in the transfer portal, because remember, the Bruins did well with Femi Oladipo from Cal coming over. They've had a tendency, regardless of who's the coach, to have success with transfer linebackers or guys who come out of nowhere to dominate. With a healthy McCullough, could be a game wrecker in the pass rushing for UCLA as they look to get some sort of effort to get to the quarterback from the edge. For the rest of what's coming, UCLA, there's just this vibe that there's a lot more to come, a lot more talent, and they're just starting on the visits, on the talent, and the overhaul Bob Chesney's bringing with the new resources that are building with UCLA football as the Bruins are finally beginning to commit. Hopefully with the commits, the talent brought in, it'll lead to results in 2026. Certainly, it's leading to early returns in UCLA's transfer portal success. Next, we'll talk about transfer returns and success. The Bruins are number 4 in the country with a dominant beatdown of USC. I expected this, but let's talk about what they need to go right in other conferences to get a good seed and why the Bruins are so much better than USC. Talk about it next. Fridays already feel different during the basketball season. Well, FanDuel's making them even better every Friday night before the games tip off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame with a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the actions even start. Friday night, that's 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, an appointment viewing with the NBA Happy Hour. You get the bonuses, boosts, surprises, Every time there's something new. Timing's perfect right up to the games. It's that build up right before the weekend starts and adds those extra energy moments to Friday night basketball so you don't even overthink it. Before tip off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA happy hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, a little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA happy hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA, let's talk about the real basketball team in Westwood. It's the UCLA women. Number 4, I always think they are a lot higher. They should be a lot higher ranked than they are, but the latest polls have been updated to say the voters don't think the Bruins are better than South Carolina. If UCLA had beat Texas in the Thanksgiving week, Las Vegas Invitational, if you will, the Bruins would be a number 3 seed or a number 3 overall seed. They'd be a 1 seed. I think the Bruins, Texas, South Carolina for now, and UConn have clearly pulled themselves away from the rest of the field. LSU has lost a couple of times. I really don't think there's anybody outside of the 1 seeds that can challenge. I know Iowa State will be interesting without a Crooks, but for now, the Bruins are a clear number 1 seed, the best team in the Big Ten, and they dominated USC. What makes UCLA so special? Largely, the Bruins' best player is available. USC's game changer? It's not Jazzy Davidson, it's Juju Watkins, and she's not returning this year. Otherwise, that would have made this year a little more interesting, but Juju expects to return next season, and the Bruins will deal with that then. UCLA destroyed USC. And I was thinking, if UCLA, you're a top 4 team in the country, you're the cream of the crop this year in Big Ten, USC's best player gone for the season. Unfortunate, but that's the case this year. That's the reality. UConn, who is the clear favorite to win the national championship at this moment, went to USC, beat them, and beat them pretty easily. Watched that game, took it in, and said if UCLA wants to win a championship or be considered to be close equals to UConn, you go destroy a USC team at home that shouldn't be on the same floor, quite frankly. USC didn't have the shooting, they don't have the post presence, and their best freshman, their best player, is good, but she's not Juju level, who will just take over the game, getting fouls, shooting the ball, getting to the rack, blocking bets. That's not what Davidson is, who does have a good ability to block shots, just not Juju level. So what did Lauren Betts do? She once again proved she's a dominant force in the paint. 18 points, 12 boards, 4 assists in 31 minutes, 50% shooting. Would have had even more if she could have made all of her free throws, and 3 blocks, 2 steals for the reigning National Defensive Player of the Year. The rest of the team kept it nice and easy. John Neepkins played a calm, cool 22 minutes plus, 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, hitting half her threes and the majority of her shots. Kiki Rice, in a game where a year ago she might have struggled a little bit more, was helped out because Charlize Ledger-Walker's in that same backcourt. Kiki Rice, 8 assists, 0 turnovers, 14 points. Just the uptick in production, the decrease in turnovers, and Kiki Rice has been unlocked playing at the next level, improving her draft stock and her professional, projection after her senior campaign. Gabriela Jaquez, I was hoping she put up a 20-point spot, would be continuing to shoot the ball at a high level, but I think Jaquez's early 3-point returns are now going to get coached up and defended a lot better than what it was in the preseason, early part of Big Ten season. She had 12 points, 3 of 9 shooting, and 0 for 2 night from 3, but affected the game in other ways with her 6 boards, an assist, no steals or blocks in this game, but is a player that's going to play hard hustle for an entire 30 to 40 minutes if need be. Dugalich getting her last crack at this rivalry, 6 points, 5 boards. The Bruins have seen her shift away from becoming a pure 3-point shooter, which she was early this season, and the Bruins can get her down low in the paint and get some easy buckets that way. Sienna Betts, her minutes continue to climb, only had 1 bucket, but the 5 rebounds are huge. The one thing I do not like to see from Sienna Betts, though, 4 turnovers. If she's in the game and teams are letting her catch the ball because they're going to focus so much on her sister Lauren, if Sienna's turning it over 4 times in 17 minutes, every team's going to let Sienna catch the ball. She has to be much stronger, better with decision-making, and let the Bruins not have her turn it over. The thing I do like, 5 rebounds, though, and in limited action, 4 steals. So she brings the defensive intensity, can get rebounds, And I don't think we need Sienna Betts to score the basketball. That's not what UCLA needs. She just can't be a turnover machine. Twice for a true freshman is okay. I know UCLA at times had Elena Arnasolo bring the ball up the floor. But if the Bruins are going to work hard to get Sienna Betts the basketball, or she gets a rebound or two and say it's stripped away from her, or this is a growing trend throughout the rest of the season, UConn is going to pick her pocket when it comes to the Final Four. Texas will do the same. South Carolina will be relentless. You think if there's, for some reason, an Elite Eight matchup when they play Iowa State and Audie Crooks is in there, Lauren sitting down, you got Sienna Betts maybe matched up against Crooks for a few moments there, you've got to be firm with the basketball. Now, that's a lot for a freshman who has started her season much later than anticipated, but the Bruins against the USC team that I don't really know the full quote Corey Close used at halftime, but something about USC playing uncharacteristic. Yeah, I'm surprised USC was leading UCLA in that first quarter, and quite frankly, that they hit a bunch of threes in quarter number one. USC went 4 of 5 from downtown in the first quarter. That's more threes than I thought they would make all game. Honestly, this USC team can't consistently shoot the ball, let alone go 4 or 5 for a 40-minute stretch. The rest of this game, this Trojan team, which will be, a bit more short, it's just shorthanded. They're not as good in the post, shooting, or with their best player all around this year. That will change, but this year UCLA is much, much better. SC went in the second half 2 of 13. 4 of 19 for the rest of the game. That's closer to the numbers than the 8 of 24 they shot in this game. UCLA from downtown, 4 of 11. They got points in the paint. 42 got points off turnovers, and while the score was tied a few times, the lead changed a bit in that first quarter, early portion of the game. I'm shocked USC even put up a good first quarter effort. They're talking a lot of nonsense. I saw post-game about how this game will be a lot different in the Galen Center. I really don't think that's the case. The one thing UCLA will be thinking about, it's the end of the season. It's early March before the Big Ten tournament, right before the NCAA tournament. UCLA's focus might have shifted then, but that doesn't mean the talent gap won't just be the same as it is now to what it is then. UCLA is so much better, and they treated this game like they should, just destroying their bitter rival in a home game where you can prove that some of the national contenders who beat USC, they beat them by double figures. South Carolina this year beat USC, I believe it was in crypto.com, but it was in Los Angeles by 17 points. South Carolina sometimes destroys teams. They didn't destroy this USC team. So I do think UCLA is better than South Carolina. Now shifting the focus. UCLA beating a top 15, top 20 team at the time by 30 plus points at home doesn't do anything for UCLA to leapfrog South Carolina. It's not going to do anything for them to leapfrog Texas. So what's going to take for UCLA to avoid playing UConn in the Final Four versus getting shifted to a 2 seed or getting to a number 2 or number 3 overall seed in the country? I'm focusing on South Carolina's schedule. This is what South Carolina has, because I don't think the Bruins will leapfrog Texas in the rankings or in the overall committee seeding unless Texas loses 3 games. That's how many games Texas has to lose, with UCLA maintaining their current record and pace if they're going to leapfrog Texas, who beat them head-to-head on a neutral floor. UCLA versus South Carolina. South Carolina hosts Texas, so they get a rematch of that Thanksgiving week game. If Texas beats South Carolina, that's now 2 losses to the Gamecocks and 2 losses to Texas, 1 on a neutral floor, 1 at home, and I think that'll do enough. The other thing is South Carolina is going to start playing a lot of common opponents that UCLA and South Carolina had in either non-conference play or conference play. South Carolina goes to Oklahoma. That's a big one. That's the end of January. The week before is when they host Texas. So 2 of the newcomers from the Big 12 to the SEC may determine how the committee views what UCLA looks like going into the tournament. Another game UCLA played earlier this year was against Tennessee. Slow start, Bruins pulled away. South Carolina hosts Tennessee around the first weekend of February. That's a big game, middle of the day. I forget what day the big game is, but it's usually around that weekend. South Carolina hosts a big game. They play Tennessee at home. If Tennessee is competitive or beats them, if Oklahoma at home is competitive and beats South Carolina, I think that'll do enough damage to the resume for South Carolina to leapfrog UCLA, even if they get that win at home versus Texas, even if they do that with that Thanksgiving Day loss they had to Texas. And the thing is, if Texas beats South Carolina twice, they have only one regular season meeting. One regular season meeting in the SEC, not including the non-conference game. So they don't get another chance to beat Texas in a third game, maybe in the SEC tournament, but other than that. So the Bruins continue to beat Big Ten teams who have been getting upset left and right. For UCLA, I think they're much better than almost all of them. Oh, not almost, every single one of them. South Carolina has a couple of stumbling blocks. If they survive their Oklahoma matchup, a sneaky matchup against Vanderbilt at home, yes, I could see where the rankings in the committee keep them higher, but this is that chance. From now to early February, the next month, we'll decide if UCLA is to stay ahead of South Carolina or if the Gamecocks are going to be wrongfully ahead of the Bruins heading into the tournament, as UCLA will most likely stick as that fourth number one seed, which means they play UConn in the Final Four. I think you want to avoid that at all costs. Next, we'll talk about UCLA and what can they do to figure things out in Big Ten play with Wisconsin. Next, we'll tell you on Locked on UCLA. There's nothing like this college football, college basketball season, the tailgates, the packed stadiums. It's right down being in the middle of it all. That's the energy. That's the moments you remember forever, the bands, but actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with the long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Gametime gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Open the Gametime app, look at upcoming college football games, and hey, look how fast it was to get great seats. You got seat views. You know exactly where you're sitting, and it's an incredibly easy to use app. Go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. Knowing prices include all the fees means the process is stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms again apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked on College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. UCLA and their uneven start now to Big Ten play in the new year. A weird loss to Iowa. The Bruins were getting boat raced early, fought back to get the game within striking distance, only for Iowa to pull away in the last minute. Put the Bruins on a frustrating trajectory in this 2026 part of the season. Early in the non-conference, UCLA suffered 3 losses. One more than I thought would already be disastrous, losing to Gonzaga, losing to Arizona, and then losing in a puzzling game in San Francisco to Cal. So the Bruins sit here, double-digit wins, 4 losses, 2-1 in Big Ten play. Exact same thing UCLA had to start last year's season, or Big Ten part of the season, where they go to Midwest, they get down big, and they can't come back against Nebraska. This year is Iowa. Now, the Bruins head to Madison to take on a Wisconsin team that generally is pretty tough to play against. Generally. This is not last year's Wisconsin team with Tonje, with a bunch of 7-footers, the team that ran UCLA out of the gym in the Big Ten tournament. This is a 9-5 team that is 8-1 at home, but their most recent loss was at home to Purdue. I can't fault them for taking a home loss to Purdue. But this year they've found ways to go through the schedule, uneven and fun ways, but they got blown out by BYU in Salt Lake City. They lost to TCU in San Diego. They have lost by 30 to Nebraska in Lincoln, lost by 10 to Villanova, and then lost by 16 to Penn State. One of their leading scorers is John Blackwell. John Blackwell in the most recent Big Ten games, this is what he's done. In his last 4 games, including 2 Big Ten games, John Blackwell is 3, or if I do quick math, 3 for 18 from 3. 3 for 18 from 3. He's a 37%er. And if UCLA allowed Bennett Search to go off, and some of these other 3-point shooters, like they did against Cal, to shoot well a long time ago, John Blackwell is primed for a breakout opportunity. He has been waiting. He is the 6'4" junior guard that is looking for a breakout performance in the last month. He started Marquette in the month of December with a 30-piece and a 26-piece against Northwestern. But by the time he takes on UCLA on a Tuesday night, this will be a month since his last good game, which means Nebraska won for 11, 7 points. Rough shooting night against Villanova where they lost by 10. Milwaukee didn't do much in a win. And against Purdue, didn't even get into double figures. 3 of the last 4 games for Blackwell, he hasn't even gotten into double figures. So he has been struggling to shoot the ball. UCLA, under any circumstances, does not want to get this guy mad and scoring buckets. The dude the Bruins do want to get mad and scoring buckets is Eric Daly Jr., a guy who is capable of being UCLA's top 3 in scoring, but has been a little absent since the beginning part of December, namely mid-December. Eric Daly Jr., 6 points against Gonzaga, no show. Arizona State, 4 points, not a single made field goal for 6. Against Cal Poly, a game where UCLA was running up and down the floor, scoring points, he had 10 of those and was 0 for 3 from 3. UC Riverside bounced back, and that was a 13-point performance, but you're starting to see a trend. Against lower Big West teams, 2 double-digit efforts, 8 for 13, but 0 for 4 from 3. EDJ against Iowa in 30 minutes, 4 points, 0 for 2 from 3, looked slow, couldn't get shots off as a 3. The Bruins trying to go small. Well, Eric Daly Jr. actually played better as a 4 than he does while trying to start this year as a 3, while being stronger, but not as quick as agile to make those plays. He needs to be an elite rebounder if he's not going to be a great scorer, and he's not truly that at this moment. Eric Daly Jr. does have 5.5 boards per game, but EDJ scoring has come down nearly 2.5 points since its peak at 12.5 points per game earlier this year. And it's not like he's going to play Oregon anytime soon. When he plays Oregon, he shoots like 90%, scores on average 30 points. Exaggerated, but I'm not that far off of his last 2 years at UCLA. But Cronin talked about the consistency of Eric Daly Jr. coming into this year would lead to UCLA's success. The Bruins last year when Adamar played more than 10 minutes was great. What was even better, UCLA's success when Daly Jr. scored simply 10 or more points. And let's look at the Arizona game. 13 points, Bruins were competitive. Against Cal, he was leading the pace for a team that seemed off, 17 points, but that's when Tyler Bilodeau was out and didn't play that Cal game. Against Washington, UCLA won almost in spite of him in 16 minutes, going 0 for 3. Against Gonzaga, against a bigger lineup down low, 6 points, no made shots. Eric Daly Jr. hasn't made a 3 since December 6th. All right. So you got 2 guys in this UCLA-Wisconsin matchup that who's going to make their shots? John Blackwell's expected and needed to score a lot more points for this Wisconsin team. He's second in scoring, could easily be a leader. They've got more than him. But UCLA can struggle to score points at times, or they can. So between Wisconsin's big 3 of Boyd, Blackwell, and Nolan Winter, who average anywhere between 14.5 points a game to 19 points per game, UCLA is stuck between Bilodeau's 18 and then Dent on even 13. Sky Clark coming off what looks to be a hamstring/cramping situation against Iowa. He's 13.5 points per game. Is he ready to go after 2 days off? EDJ is going to have to step up and help with the shooting, or UCLA might struggle in a tough road environment where Wisconsin generally doesn't lose unless you're a really good team. And UCLA has proven thus far they are not a really good team. Various bracketologists around the country struggle to put UCLA in the field. They have a lot of wins, but they've beaten what? Arizona State? They beat Oregon and Washington, good wins, but are they going to go beat somebody that can prove anything? UCLA, for them to start building some momentum, they got to beat somebody good. They need Xavier Booker to step up. They need every one of their single transfers to step up. If we saw that wake-up call from Donovan Dent, that might bode well for UCLA. But beating Wisconsin on the road will prove the Bruins, yes, are prepared a little bit better for winning away from home, but you got to start stacking wins. UCLA goes to play Maryland, and they go back on the road to Penn State, Ohio State before hosting Purdue. It's going to get a lot harder before it gets any easier. UCLA is, after this little mini stretch with Wisconsin, Maryland, Penn State, Ohio State, they've got a winnable stretch before they go to Michigan. Between Purdue and Michigan is my expected time where I think UCLA is going to go on their winning streak. Anything else is a bonus and resume boosting. But until then, we can't expect UCLA until January 24th when they play Northwestern at home prior to Valentine's Day for UCLA to be a consistent contender before they stick on the West Coast for 3 weeks time. Until they do that, UCLA is going to be up and down unless Donovan Dent is in takeover mode and Cronin flips the switch. If they don't do that, this team is going to be hard to watch and inconsistent. But Wisconsin could be the start of getting some good positive momentum rolling in the right direction. Till then, we'll just wait on the women's team to dominate and the football team to get transfers in. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.